We are back in the Toolangi State Forest heading for a big day of adventure. We've got everything from hard rock all the way through to bottomless bog holes. Oh, that's a nice angle. We are back in the Toolangi State Forest heading for a big day of adventure. Along for the ride we've got Steve from Darchie, Troy from Road Safe, Jerry from VRS and Tony from Donaldson. Toolangi is one of those iconic forests to the east of Melbourne, just over an hour's drive, and the diversity of tracks in this region are phenomenal.
We hit Spragues Track, which is our key to say that we're heading into the off-road stuff. So we all stopped, pulled over to let air out of our tyres. It's much safer and easier on all the gear if you've got better, more appropriate air pressures. So we all stopped. Everyone got their tyre deflators out except Troy from Nitro Gear. He forgot to bring his stuff, so he had to go old school, grab a twig out of the bush and let the air out of his tyres using a stick.
We had the opportunity to talk to James from U-Tracks about our extra on-vehicle fuel filter kit and water and fuel sensor that we have. Donated one to him so that he can fit that to his Nissan.
All right, so that's the unit.
That's the kit.
And when you say kit, it comes with everything you're going to need.
It comes with the filter itself.
And a spare filter.
And the other thing we've incorporated in it, which again was at the request of a lot of people, is the filter head has now got an incorporated primer. In regard to our new fuel filter kit, what it is, it's basically a slightly bigger filter that we've brought out, 3 micron filter, very high efficiency, but with diesel filtration, bigger is better. So the bigger the media pack in the filter, the slower the fuel can flow through it, the less restriction there is on the system, and the more efficient the filter is, and the better it is at pulling water out.
As soon as we took a right-hand turn into Downie Spur, we encountered our first obstacle of the day. It was very slippery, very wet mud that caused a lot of the vehicles to slide sideways, including the Big Iveco, and it turned out to be a really good start to a challenging day.
Oh, nice. This does look very nice. Oh my God.
Oh, see that? Oh, yeah. Snap. Wow.
Yeah. Watch that one, guys, very deceptive.
Go on, Jenkins.
Yeehaw!
The first one was challenging. The thing is with whoop-de-doos is that you can't see where you're going. So like you go up a little bit and you're looking out the window, you're looking at the sky, and then the next minute you're over the top and down. So you got to make sure that you negotiate those at a reasonably slow speed so that when you do come down you can get your bearings pretty quickly.
So shortly after that we came a bit further down the track, and then there was another bog hole that sort of blended around the corner a bit, so you couldn't see the exit as you came into it.
Everyone tried to go through and some hit it harder than others, so there was a bit of splashing, but it was good fun. Everyone made it through unscathed and we moved on.
He's loving it. Yeah, it eats it up. It eats it up.
Got a bit muddy. All through though. Lovely pungent smell. We got further down the road, yeah, there was another bog hole. We got out and we checked it for depth. That's something you've got to be careful of, and also check to see how soft or firm the base is.
You can see how mossy this is, how long it is since this track's actually been used. That there is vehicle breakage. You're going to destroy your alternator, your bearings, all sorts of things, and not be very happy and be stuck for a very long time and possibly end up with a very expensive recovery. So leave those to the big crazy guys who really want to challenge themselves. There's plenty of other mud to play in up here in Toolangi.
All right, we've just been out and checked out this bog hole. One on the main track's pretty good. There's one to the left which just looks like hours and hours of winching.
Bit of an angle there. Oh, that's a nice angle.
You just never know with the car, but we haven't got that clearance like Simon had with the truck. But yeah, he went through it, but the rest of us decided to take another track.
Deep on that side. Yeah, like, so we are going in? Nah. Are you sure?
I'm not going
I
in.
feel like you should.
I'll take the car sideways.
I'll
but I'm not
record you.
going in.
I'll even drive it if you don't want to.
No,
if
no,
you're scared about you getting wet.
Not about that. I've just got haunting memories of this exact track where I've taken this car.
The best way to get over some is to confront your fears.
That's true, but I don't want to.
Shortly after that, there was one that James from New Tracks knew about that was pretty deep, that he'd been through before and made some good memories and didn't want to do it again. So we all gave that one a miss and kept cruising down the track for the next bit.
Once we got through the bog hole, didn't have to go very far at all until we found the next major challenge.
So then we came across 3 bog holes in the same section of track. There was the far left bog hole that looked to be the biggest and the deepest.
The one on the left we were never going to go down, and the one in the middle looked like it was a little bit too easy.
So naturally Simon wanting to always be up for a challenge.
And everybody wants to see the big Iveco in the big hole. Famous last words.
He got himself ready, got all the winch cables out.
Just like the Boy Scouts, it's always good to be prepared. Jerry got very excited, got all the winch gear out, got the gloves on.
Well, there we go, kid. One of those things, you take your gear with you because you're prepared and you think something like that, well, let's get set up because somebody's going to need it.
We thought for sure there's no way he's going to be able to drive it. Simon jumped in.
It looks challenging, that's for sure. And the drop down's going to be fun. But
He was able to power all the way through, come out the other side. The water had nowhere to go, it was really steep sides. Awesome bow wave as he went through.
Oh yeah!
look at that bow wave.
The water went about 30 metres past the bog hole and we never even looked like needing a winch.
Maybe not.
Thankfully, wasn't required, which is one of the reasons preparation is good, because most times you prepare, you don't need it.
Once Simon got through that, then most of us decided we weren't going to go the same route again as he did.
Nah, I'm not going to go through the big one. I'm 100% scared. Get that on record.
There was 3 major options to choose from. The harder left option, the bigger bog hole, but on the right was actually pretty firm underneath. And then there was a bit through the middle, which was a bit of a twist and turn between the 2 of the bog holes.
Steve's taking the chicken track.
We all got through without massive dramas.
And a little bit of a steep section, so you might want to cross over into low range.
Following on from there, we crested a hill and then had a fairly steep downhill run.
Just made sure it was in low range, put it in first and just walked the car down. And
I set us a challenge of trying to come down the hill without putting your foot on the brake. Just something to do while you're passing the time of day, I suppose. But it allows you to get to understand how your car drives and how to control the car. And let the car get momentum and do what it does best.
safe as houses, and that was a good little steep track. So at Road Safe, we've developed a new shock absorber relocation kit for the back of the NP300 Navaras, and it's a billet CNC alloy block that relocates the lower shock mount to give an extra 50mm of shock absorber length. So it doesn't make the shock longer, it just relocates the mount to provide more suspension travel. And that comes with a pair of the Blackhawk extended sway bar link, a pair of the Blackhawk hybrid rubber bump stop, headlight adjustment kit, and a pair of brake lines included in that kit too. So that way we're keeping all the parameters of the factory suspension in check, all in the right parameters that it needs to be.
So we got to the turn off for Luke's Creek Track. We'd been told by James at New Tracks that it was a bit of a right-hand bend. And the thing was like, it turned back on itself. It was a complete 180, literally side by side.
This one's looking a little bit tight.
Yeah, I'm predicting about a 4-point turn on this one.
I call it a multiple point turn. Simon will disagree and say he did it in a 2-point turn, but he cheated.
Cheating.
Simon demonstrated the great turning circle of the Iveco Daily 4x4.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be all right.
Easy 1-point turn.
There's the Iveco right there, just out my window. He was going that way a second ago, now he's going that way.
Then it starts winding its way around and we got to our next challenge, really.
As soon as we got into Creek NO.2, we encountered our first bog hole.
There was a series of them, all leading into the creek itself. So again, we jumped out, had a quick assessment.
Simon decided to show us all how it's done.
That's a bit slippery.
It looked pretty precarious, but we powered through nonetheless. I ended up following through that line to the left. I actually thought that I might have had to winch, but it turns out, again, as he always does, Leroy just took care of it.
As it went through the water, it forced its way up and bent the number plate up to the point where it had snapped out of one screw hole. We'll fix that when we get home. First car of the day to be damaged. Not much of a damage, but yeah, it's still damage. It counts. So. Alrighty, off on the next series of challenges.
We then got to a river crossing. It was actually quite picturesque.
The creek itself was a bit of a challenge, had a tree trunk right across the middle of it. It ended up being pretty firm and rocky underneath. Slippery climb out. Followed by a rock shelf.
They're surrounded by people.
Try not to bounce too hard so don't bottom out.
Keep the vehicle straight, approach it straight on, keep your wheels straight.
Good girl. Good on you, Leroy. Oh, well, Leroy's a boy.
We were driving along the tracks. I was just starting to relax a bit because the track had eased up a little. And I hear James come over the radio going, "Welcome to the hard stuff, boys." And literally like 2 seconds later, the camera car came across the radio as well.
Full bars touching the ground, we're stuck.
Get the Iveco coming to the rescue.
We all had to pull over and come down and just see what had happened.
I've got to admire his optimism.
The camera car got hung up. Mike, the cameraman, was driving.
Simon jumped in and selected the right combination of switches and buttons.
Who's the guy who put the handbrake on? It's not like it's going anywhere.
Simon jumped in thinking he was going to have this really epic drive to try and recover the car. Turned out he just had to push the diff lock button and it reversed straight out.
Kind of a big deal when forward driving, having him forward drive, but he's still learning, that's okay.
Once we got the camera car recovered, we stopped to assess all the challenges we had before us.
We got out and had a bit of a survey first.
There's bog holes as far as the eye can see, there's ruts as far as the eye can see, there's just car swallowing holes.
Along that stretch was probably 5 or 6 or 7 different bog holes in different directions that you can go.
I was promising some difficult sections and difficult bog holes all day. At the end of Luke Creek 2 is where you find that challenge.
Going very gentle.
Oh, we're going in. It was fairly straightforward, but quite deep and very slippery. What impresses me is the height the mud up is on the trees.
And then we looked into the second bog hole.
Oh, that rear end's just walking. Front tyres at 17 psi, rears are at 15 psi. Can we get across to the left? Well, we're going to find out.
We had the difficulty of having to swap halfway through.
Because I'd been peer pressuring him all day and challenging his manhood, there was nothing really he could do except to give it a crack. One of the deepest bog holes that exists here.
She's slippery and pretty tight.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
I don't know what options.
Holy hell.
I can't see a way through.
I want to go to the right, so we're going to drive straight into the end of it.
Will he make it?
I don't know.
Just no speed, no traction, and by about 3/4 of the way through, completely stuck. Didn't have enough room to turn. Yeah, it was designed for smaller cars. The Iveco being so much bigger, it was too wide and it just couldn't make that final turn.
We then had to winch him sideways to avoid an even deeper bog hole.
The water was just so black, just to tell you that nobody's driven through there and you don't know how long. So that was definitely a no-go track.
Went out the winch cable, wrapped a tree trunk protector around the tree, hooked it all up and started taking up the slack.
We were able to use it a lot today. We were able to show what you do with the recovery gear and learning to get your angles right, show how you can get out of difficult situations.
Make sure we keep the tension on that cable as we're driving forward nice and gently. Pretty tight angle, we've got to winch ourselves up and it's a steep bank as well.
They make it possible for you to get to places that you never thought possible and still feel safe. Great little piece of gear. Use them wisely, use them correctly.
Pretty much spent 3 hours getting cars out of the muck. That was really a sign of things to come. But we finally got the vehicle down into the next rutted section, face to face with the biggest challenge on this track.
Of course, then the track itself goes a steep right-hand bend, and you basically got the two walls of the track either side of you.
He's flooring it through this boggy section. Front of the vehicle scrapes along the wall.
And then just the width of the Iveco, the big wheels, where he popped a bead.
Oh, guys off the rim, yep.
Big spray of water comes out and collected one of the guys.
Particularly hard position to be in. There was nothing we could do to fix it. It was down a deep hole in a puddle with no room to move, no room to work. Had no choice but to hook up the winch, get the Iveco out of the dangerous situation it was in, get it to a point where we could actually get the wheels and tyres off.
And then just slowly drag it out.
The tyre was basically just sitting in the middle of the wheel and the wheel was spinning inside it. It was really nasty.
There's two ways that you can lose a bead. You can lose one side of the tyre, or you can lose both sides of the tyre, and it's completely separated. The second one is worse, and that is what happened to Simon.
So we got the Iveco back out onto solid ground and assessed the situation.
Put the high lift jack under it. When Simon went to get his air compressor out of the back of the toolbox, he found out that it was full of water.
We do not recommend this technique. It's pretty full on. It can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, but both beads off and we've got no air compressor.
It is rare in this world of ours to encounter a situation where you use explosions to fix stuff.
Oh my God.
Whilst we were fixing our tyres here, the other guys were making their own way through the sequence of bog holes.
James from New Tracks was first in line. He's always up for a challenge. He had one look at it, decided the hard line is the way for him. He's able to park it up and wait for the next person to come through, which was me.
I didn't want to take the boring high road, so I did a bit of a technical drive.
Yeah, cracker, see how Troy goes with this first.
Made it up to the boggy section, which Simon had just previously attempted. I decide, we're already here, let's just give it a crack. Luckily enough, he's able to find some grip and he's able to wriggle his way out through the narrow boggy section. I guess at the end of the day, all you really need is a 31-year-old car to get you out of these different obstacles.
All right, winch out. Whilst we eagerly waited for our air compressor to dry out and come back to life, and the chaos of recoveries and mud holes continued, Steve from Darchie decided it was time for a quiet lunch.
One of our new products that's coming out later in the year. It's the Tracker Versatile Table. It's a really super compact table designed to be a prep table or a dining table for two or a coffee table. It's got 3 heights, which means you can have it down low, you can have it at an eating level, or you can have it up nice and high so when you're chopping your veggies up for dinner, it's at a comfortable height for you. Comes in a nice, neat little carry bag, so it takes up virtually no space at all in the back of your car. Use it to make your next camping experience that much more enjoyable.
Wrapping up the great day that we've had, we've all gotten through the bog of death relatively unscathed.
It was great to have everybody out on this trip. It was a huge crew of cars and people, a whole heap of new faces I hadn't met before.
The first vehicle that actually got stuck today was the crew car. Now he knows how to put a car in a four-wheel drive, so it's a great experience for him today.
Yeah, be my guest.
Show me
how it's done.
I'll totally do it.
I feel emasculated by my boss.
Toolangi's so close to Melbourne and such a versatile and diverse place. There's challenges for everybody from mild to extreme.
As far as the day went, thoroughly enjoyable. Great to catch up with Troy and Jerry and a couple of the other guys as well.
It's been a great day out here in Toolangi with the Full Drive TV crew and Simon and all the other guys.
End of another exciting day that proved to be super, super fun, and I had a ball.
Yeah.
100%. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
great.
That's what we're here for.
Not wet yet, so.
Do you want me to knock into, like, I'll run into it?
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah,
Good, yeah.
I've got a water bottle, I can splash him in the face.
Just full on hit him.
Yeah, that's it. That'll be fun. You should get a water bottle, just swear the guy you ride past. It's such a